Good afternoon, everyone, and a very warm welcome as we all meet in person for the first time in almost 2 years. Thankfully, I see some familiar faces out there, but for those of you I don't know, I'm Brian O'Flynn. I'm the head of Ireland's Ancient East. I started this role back in March 2020, and as everybody is too quick to keep reminding me, everything was fine in Irish tourism until I came along. Look, like every part of the country, last year was a very tough year for businesses throughout the region. And I'm very conscious that even as we meet today, you're taking time out of your businesses when you face ongoing operational challenges. However, we do want to take the time today to look back at some of the key achievements from last year and how we're going to apply some of the learnings from that to our strategy going forward. And then I'm going to be joined by a number of my colleagues who will take you through the regional tourism strategy, which has currently been finalised, which sets out our ambitions for the region for the next 5 years, what we wanted to achieve and how we want it to work for everybody. We're then going to take a very quick look at some of the sales, marketing and promotion campaigns that we have in place for you to accelerate your recovery into 2022. Last year was absolutely another year of survival. Liquidity challenges were to the fore of that challenge for all businesses. And within Ireland's Ancient East, we paid out €22 million through various business continuity schemes to try and help you keep your businesses afloat. However, on top of liquidity challenges, businesses also face ongoing capability issues. This is compounded by openings, closings, restrictions, but also an unprecedented labour force market out there that is a challenge for every sector, but is particularly compounded for hospitality and tourism. We had destination networks meeting on a regular basis to try and ensure that that collaboration was informed on a destination level, and we delivered over 1,500 training days across the year. We delivered workshops, 920 of them, everything from lean and F&B to demand generation to marketing on a shoestring at a time when businesses were really struggling. From a demand perspective, as Niall alluded to this morning, our Keep Discovering campaign was in place for 27 weeks. That campaign last year reached over 97% of Irish adults. Now, this is a remarkable reach for a campaign. But where we really saw further success was partnering with, and I see some people here today, partnering with people at a local level through destination networks to, again, where Niall talked through earlier, from that kind of awareness down to conversion, essentially, from intent to conversion, to collaborate at a local level to use that national campaign to see increased exposure for your destinations. From a business point of view, the feedback to me was that the assets and toolkits and imagery that we made available to businesses at a time when you might have had no marketing budget at all enabled you to get exposure on the back of that national effort. So again, piggybacking on the success of that reach, that campaign will be there for you this year again, and we encourage people to get behind it because it's there to work for your businesses. I just want to point out one thing here, the 90,000 trade referrals. That refers to direct referrals through discoverireland.ie. That's 90,000 individual opportunities to generate revenue directly into your business, showcasing the importance of having that listing up to date. Again, how we worked together to try and convert some of that reach, 97% reach is great, but how do we convert that into revenue? So through our own partners, which Paul Keeley alluded to this morning here, we converted €8 million of revenue directly into Ireland's Ancient East businesses. The feedback from you at the time was we needed some agility in these campaigns, so we'll maintain that into 2022. And when I say kind of agility, what I mean is last year, for instance, when doors opened for us, we saw our urban centres really struggle versus their rural counterparts to kind of generate that overnight occupancy. So we were able to dial up Cork City and Waterford City, particularly in Ireland's Ancient East, to make sure they were featuring when and where they needed to most. And then as we moved into the summer campaign, Waterford actually started to begin to reach its capacity levels, so we were able to dial back. We will maintain that agility again as we go forward this year. One other thing to point out, which was interesting to me, the Win-Win and Expedia actually accounted for 50,000 out of those 78,000 bed nights in Ireland's Ancient East. So as you're looking at your own channels, or if you're looking to partner with us on some of these platforms next year, they were the two big hitters for Ireland's Ancient East region, so again, it might be worth bearing that in mind. Collaboration, I'm going to talk an awful lot about today, and I'm going to over-egg it a little bit, I'm sure, but collaboration really was the big takeaway for me from last year and from all of us. Where we collaborated at a level with destinations in a structured and strategic manner is where we absolutely saw the biggest impact. So I'm not sure any number of slides is going to do any justice to the level of collaboration that happened across the region last year, but I'm going to share a short clip here now from a few of our stakeholders. It'll just give you a taste of some of the successful efforts that were achieved through this collaboration. So I'll just play this here now.
A key initiative of the Tourism Taskforce here in Kilkenny was creating a number of training supports. So we worked closely with Fáilte Ireland, who delivered those supports for all our businesses here in Kilkenny. Kilkenny Tourism Taskforce got together to look at what we could do at that stage in a time of crisis. All of our international visitors were gone, and one of our key focuses was outdoor. So bringing people outdoor in Kilkenny, and we had a number of projects there that we ran at that stage. We brought a welcome team, local people here in Kilkenny, out on the street to welcome our tourists. We had a number of craft trails that we created, initiated and delivered here in Kilkenny, that we created. Wolf Walkers being one, the Connected from the Design and Craft Council, and the Kilkenny Catwalk.
The Boyne Valley Tourism Recovery Task Force was set up by Fáilte Ireland at a really critical time for us as an industry. We had a collective of businesses highlighting all of the experiences that really were still viable as an option in the past 2 years. Examples like dining at home, safe outdoor experiences and family options. And as a collective, it was so cost effective to come on board on social media to do this. We launched our Ancient Destination Development Plan in the height of a pandemic. It was the fruit of years of work, and it looks to plan very exciting projects into the next 5 years for the region. So we held our inaugural meeting in mid-November, which served to mobilise various groups and venues right across our region to provide really great experiences for the visitor across our destination.
Wexford was one of the busiest counties and safest counties across the summer of 2021, and that can be accredited to the work we did with Fáilte Ireland Tourism Task Force. So we introduced a county tourism app. It meant that we could help disperse our visitors around the county across the summer. It meant that we could communicate with them and tell them where the busy spots were on any particular day. If a particular beach was getting very busy, we could communicate, we could message out and say this particular area is quite busy. They could also get access to restaurants and bars, see the menus, and link directly then to book, which was of course a very big part of the summer of 2020 and 2021. Fáilte Ireland introduced an outdoor dining grant, which we used. It was very challenging to start with, but we've managed it quite well, and we're delighted, and I'm sure it'll be part of the infrastructure going forward.
The collaboration with Fáilte Ireland and other agencies was very important for Cork as we reimagined the city. We pedestrianised 17 streets within the city centre. That created the capacity for about 1,000 extra covers for the hospitality sector, which was fantastic. And we're adding to that with urban animation. We have murals across the city through the Ardu initiative, which was also funded by Fáilte Ireland. Locally, the attractions work together to have packages and promotions among themselves, and that was very well coordinated. And then Fáilte Ireland had a domestic campaign focusing on the city.
So really, what I want to take from that, or what we've taken from that, is the level of collaboration that was probably forced upon us last year, but how we can apply that strategically going forward to lead to our sustainable recovery and growth. So our mechanism that we're using to do that essentially is our new Ireland's Ancient East Regional Tourism Strategy. This sets out our ambitions for the next 5 years for the region, what we want it to deliver, and how we all need to work together to ensure it delivers for everyone. Ireland's Ancient East is now 6 years in existence, and it's been hugely successful for industry and communities alike. It delivered over 650,000 extra visitors to the region in 2019 versus 2016. But this strategy is about building on that success and being ambitious, being very ambitious for the region, but importantly making sure that it works for the visitor, the industry, but also the community and the environment, because this really is what will help us get to those sustainable growth objectives. Like every good strategy, it needs a vision. So we've written this vision for 10 years out, because regional development of this scale does take time. We've written this, albeit abbreviated here, from the perspective of what an advocate might say when they leave the region. Now, if you bear with me, I am going to read this out to you because I do think it's important to set the context. So what we're saying is, in 2032, Ireland's Ancient East is not only internationally renowned for its rich heritage base, but also its diverse landscape, which unlocks a palpable living culture, unique to place and underpinned by 5,000 years of tradition. As the food-producing region of Ireland, it is the provenance and offering that is steeped in the same tradition as its music, crafts, and culture, which is alive for all the senses. The region boasts an extensive coastline, river and canal network, mountain ranges, low-lying rich pastures accessible by an extensive network of trails. And it's interspersed with cities and towns that provide that lively entertainment, and it is the diversity that has developed over time which attracts a visitor for a varied holiday. So as part of the development of this strategy, we engaged with all of you, all of our industry, in June 2021. And your feedback to us was very clear and has really informed our objectives going forward. So we've kind of consolidated these priorities that you fed back to us. I'm just going to talk through the top 6 today, and then hopefully you can see how we're going to try and address that through some key projects over the next 5 years. So first of all, you said to us loud and clear that we need to work together through all agencies and stakeholders to improve the attractiveness of our towns and villages, essentially making our towns and villages and places attractors in themselves as places to visit. Secondly, you said developing those itineraries, trails, routes by which the visitor can consume the region. How do we get people out into the landscape? How do we make it simple for people to understand how they can consume the region? Thirdly, you were saying that we need to encourage people to the big visitor attractions, get them to spend more time in the destination, visit elsewhere. Developing the outdoor activities element of the brand proposition came through very strongly. And I suppose within that there's 2 things, developing the outdoor proposition and developing the outdoor infrastructure, but also enabling stakeholders who maybe operate in that space to see themselves in the brand more. Providing clear domestic and overseas visitor strategy, essentially segmentation, tell us who are we targeting, how are we targeting, and how can we target them to most effect. And then thirdly, improving the availability of evening and quality experiences outside of just the pub came back through very strongly. What else can people do in destination in the evening for families, for all age groups, to really experience the broad range of offering that exists on the ground? So what we've done is we've split our strategy into 5 objectives, and I'm not going to read through them all here, but we are going to take you through the next section according to these objectives. The first of these is the industry-facing one, ensuring that we're enabling the industry to grow its capacity and capability so that it can thrive over the period of the strategy and ultimately create those sustainable jobs in local communities that we seek out to. So I'm going to hand you over now to my colleague Amanda Horan, who's going to take you through some of our key focus areas in this regard over the next coming years. Thanks, Amanda.
Thanks, Brian. Hi, everyone. It's absolutely brilliant to be here today. I finally feel I've been released from behind the screen. I don't know how you feel. I'm actually now going to spend the next few minutes talking you through the plan of action we've put in place for business supports to help you throughout 2022. And I think it's fair to say we're all in a unique situation. None of us have been here before. Now, I've never been through a pandemic, managing survival and coming out the other side through to recovery. And throughout this period, it gave us time in the last few months to reflect on how best we could support you throughout 2022. So over the last few months, we've undertaken extensive work to identify and develop a range of supports and programs that are not only right for what you need right now, but also are designed to be delivered as best in class, but most importantly, are going to be available to you in a way that's easily accessible for you and your team when you need them most. So, I suppose, let me step you through the programme of supports and give you a little bit more detail of the elements that are involved. All of them are grounded in the whole idea that we are trying to support you, increase revenues and increase sales, with obviously due respect for the operating efficiencies that you have to look after this year as well. And in a nutshell, the supports are designed to really help you improve your bottom line. So let's have a look at them. In developing these, we did actually listen intently to where businesses are struggling most. We also looked out internationally at what is best practice, and we also ensured we did due diligence to come up with 6 key priority areas that we will focus on and concentrate on with you throughout 2022, with the aim of helping your recovery, but also accelerating that back. So firstly, let's have a look at finance and commerciality. Most businesses manage finance and commerciality quite well, but I think all of us will accept that there's always opportunity for improvement. Business and finance stability and viability are actually the building blocks of any sustainable business going forward. And more we're seeing that your staff teams need to play a role in this too. So our supports this year will help you grow their capability as well, so they can be part of that agenda with you. In terms of sales and marketing, this has always been a priority for businesses, and over the last year you had to work so hard to identify new customer segments and new ways of driving that business into your doors. So this year, our supports will build on that and will ensure that we can actually help you drive further sustained business, but also to expand your sales channels, to grow your sales platforms, so that the business, and to tailor, I suppose, your offerings and personalise them in a way that actually optimises the revenue from each customer coming through your door. The third area then that I'm looking at is the whole area of digital and distribution. And we heard Paul Kelly say this morning that this has really accelerated through COVID. And the pace of change now has fundamentally changed the landscape. So our supports this year are going to help you stay on top of this. Whether you're a small business or a big business, we have designed supports that will really help you understand where you can drive the most effective and the best revenue from your channels. And we're going to do that in a way that's accessible to you regardless of your business size, but also to ensure that we're offering those supports at the level that's appropriate to your needs. The fourth area that we're looking at is revenue generation. And I think what was amazing to see in the last 2 years is the innovation that all of you brought to your businesses in identifying new revenue sources that actually we hadn't even thought about before. So for us this year, it's really going to be important that we help you sustain those revenues and do it in a way that in actual fact allows you grow the average spend from that. So what we're going to help you do is actually look at a total revenue management model for your business that focuses on a 360-degree approach to revenue generation in a way that will allow you to continue to sustain the spend per visitor in a growth trajectory upwards going forward, whether that's a local visitor, whether that's a domestic or an international. And the fifth area is the whole area of HR and people management. I think everybody in this room feels exactly the same way around the challenges that we're facing in regard to staffing and resourcing going forward this year. And in doing that, we are actually going to work very, very closely with our tourism career colleagues to bring you a suite of supports that will be designed to help you really rethink your approach to recruitment, to retention, and also to staff development. Because at the end of the day, our staff are at the actual heart of what we do in delivering our customer service. So you'll hear more about that this afternoon, so please watch out for that. Our Director, Jenny DeSaul, is going to step us through that, and we have some really fascinating research around that that's informing the programme of supports we're bringing to you on that. The sixth area then is that of climate action. Very topical right now and justifiably so. And I think all of us actually appreciate that we all have a role to play in this. In climate action, you know, whether that's government, whether it's us as an agency, whether it's you as a business, or whether it's the consumer. So our supports focus for business this year is actually going to allow you to work through a climate action programme that's right for your business. So we have coming on board from Q2 this year a tourism carbon calculator that was designed specifically for tourism businesses. We're going to have a suite of supports that will guide you on your journey to decide your carbon actions for this year. And we're going to have a carbon action playbook that will actually allow you to make the right decisions at the right time that's relevant for your business. So considering all of this, another key thing that we were very mindful of is that in recognising the delivery of our supports this year, we couldn't ignore the fact that there are undeniably new operating business challenges for everybody this year. So our job is really to look at how we radically overhaul and change how we make those supports available to you and to your business, while you can still manage to engage with them, but equally manage the running and the day-to-day of your business. So we've consulted extensively with you, and we have now developed a new national schedule of business supports that are available on our Business Support Hub website. So if any of you go there today, you'll see actually the range of supports we have coming down the line. And what this has allowed us to do is make available to you the supports at a time that best meets your needs, that's in line with the demands of your business, and that you choose the pace at which you and your staff engage. They've also been made much more easily accessible for businesses to engage, to register, to participate. And most importantly, they're going to be available when you need them most. With something for everyone, from new staff to those looking to upskill, to those that you're putting in advancement roles, there is going to be something for everybody. But the dynamic programme of supports ultimately is going to allow you set the pace and forward plan around your business operating needs. So the Capability Supports Programme is live now. Please do make sure you check it out in the next coming days, because it'll allow you really forward plan with your teams on the basis of your needs. And that plan will continue to be dynamic over the course of the year, so do check back regularly. We'll be continuing updating that as we go through the year. And of course, our national schedule has been hugely important and complemented by our Business Support Hub. This is our digital repository of bite-sized and self-help business tools that really allow businesses engage with key business issues at a time that actually works for them. So on that, we have everything from business calculators to templates, checklists to how-to video guides, and all aimed at addressing specific business challenges. And the strength of this is that it's available 24/7 and it's free of charge. So whenever you have time to address whatever that issue is, you can dip in to that resource. And throughout the pandemic, I think it's fair to say, the Business Support Hub was a lifeline to so many businesses, as we saw from the over 350,000 engagements with the site and the over 130,000 video views and document downloads. And on the positive side of that, the hub is going to be continually to be refreshed and maintained and updated with the latest information and guidance for your business throughout the year. So please don't miss that and do dip in and have a look. As I said, continuously new content on there all the time. And I suppose many of you, on a positive note for us, was a lot of people reached out to us over the course of the last 2 years and indicated to us how helpful the Support Hub has been, as reflected in a small selection of comments here. And while modesty prevents me from sharing more, I will say your feedback is really, really critical to us, because what it means is that we are listening, we're hearing what you say, and each time you give us feedback, it guides us in terms of what you need next and when you need it. So please do keep engaged with that. So it actually is really helpful to us to hear from you in regard to that. So to sum up, while recognising all of you are at a really critical point in your road to recovery now, we want to ensure that we not only support that recovery, but we help you accelerate and build back better. So in finishing, I believe in 2022, we can help you avail of the right programmes and the right tools to help drive performance and revenues. And we can help you build that and plan it in a way that actually works best for your needs when it suits you best. And our Business Support Hub will be there as an always-on resource with a wealth of information and resources to help you. So working with Brian and the Ireland's Ancient East team, we really look forward to working to support you to be match fit for a brilliant road to recovery ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. So moving through our objectives, the second one we've set out in the strategy is to motivate the domestic and international consumer to visit Ireland's Ancient East. And you're probably sitting there saying, is that not exactly what the brand is supposed to do? And yes, it is, but I suppose we don't just rest on our laurels and assume the brand does it work for us. So one of the key projects that we have in this regard underway already is, and you've fed this very strongly back to us, be clear about who we're targeting. Who are our segments that we're targeting? So our marketing team, and specifically our consumer planning and insights team, are currently re-looking at that segmentation model and then coming up with the mechanisms by how we target those individual segments in a more efficient way. So we'll look forward to sharing more with that with you during the year. Secondly, we're doing a review of the current brand proposition itself. Again, your feedback to us was make sure that the brand can work for everybody. The brand exists to work for two purposes primarily. Firstly, the visitor, to make sure that it's motivational for them to travel to the region. And secondly, for industry, you need to see yourselves in the brand. The brand needs to work as best as possible for you. We need to ensure that you can find expression in it to give that rounded experience that the brand and the region offers, and how you and your business plug into that to attract the visitor from overseas and the domestic market. As part of this, we have made the decision in consultation with our stakeholders to consolidate the regional geography. Essentially, the sheer scale of the region prior to now was actually a bit of an obstacle in terms of a domestic credibility sense. It was a huge, huge area. So we believe by consolidating this geography that it'll make it more credible for the domestic market, therefore fostering brand adoption and improving the visitor experience on the ground. Specifically, because there's not county boundaries necessarily called out here, we had the counties of Westmeath, Cavan and Offaly split between Ireland's Ancient East and Ireland Hidden Heartlands prior to now. This was actually causing some confusion for the visitor on the ground, but also some of the industry. Additionally, in the area of Tipperary, we have moved the Neenah Municipal District, and this is very granular, the Neenah Municipal District and part of the Thurles Municipal District into the Hidden Heartlands. But essentially what I'm saying here is this realignment aligns better with the product base, the actual natural landscape itself, and really, really crucially, the primary travel corridors throughout Ireland. 87% of access to this country still comes through Dublin Airport. So the primary travel routes are really, really important. We believe that the benefits of this will be a more cohesive visitor experience on the ground, first and foremost, alignment of industry and stakeholders, and also a kind of a more just rounded regional experience and more, I suppose, improved visitor experience is what I'm trying to say. Our third strategic objective is to provide the visitor with more reasons to stay, thereby increasing the economic impact of tourism. So what I'm talking about here really is our product base. We need to consistently ensure that our product base is up to date, relevant, and in line with what the consumer is looking for. We're asking them to part with their hard-earned money. We need to be sure that there's enough product on the ground to give them reasons to spend that money to stay. While today is primarily focused on leisure tourism, I do want to touch off business tourism briefly, because business tourism is a crucial market for some of our region here in Ireland's Ancient East, specifically Cork through the Cork Convention Bureau, and I see Seamus here. But additionally, counties of Wicklow, Kildare have a real depth of business tourism product. Encouragingly, we're seeing new business tourism product pop up across the region, the likes of Cashel Palace coming on stream, and recent success in areas like the Cliff House and Killashee, really punching above their weight in the MICE space. Our colleagues from the business tourism team are currently developing a new business tourism roadmap with industry, and you'll hear more from them in the coming weeks and months on this. Now back to leisure, and you might bear with me, and there's a bit of a crude mechanism of a map here on the right, but what I want to give you an indication over the next couple of slides is just the depth of product development that's currently happening across the region. We obviously need our iconic, and Paul alluded to earlier, Avondale and the Stud is there, and there's a lot of iconic development that's happening across the region at the moment, and we need that. That's what gets people in, that's what motivates people to say, I'll spend a second night, or I'll go visit another county, or I'll spend a third night, or whatever it might be. But beyond the iconic, you fed back to us loud and clear that we need to harness the outdoors. How do we bring that landscape? How do we bring the outdoors? How do we get people out into it? We know we have this incredible landscape out there, but how do we get the visitor aware of it and out into it, and how do we package our businesses behind it? So currently we're investing 4.25 million in water sport activity centres around the region. Our colleagues in Cuilta are developing 2 national mountain bike trails in the region, which we're really, really lucky to have. We know from international benchmarking that these kind of facilities can drive tens of thousands of visitors literally overnight. But we need to ensure by working with Cuilta that this is visitor facing, and again, easy for the industry in these areas to package behind. How do you make these work for your businesses? And then greenways, I just want to highlight as well. Greenways, we have a real USP in Ireland's Ancient East here at the moment. The length and breadth of the greenways that are either currently in the pipeline or already developed in Ireland's Ancient East, and that importantly are or will be visitor facing, is crucial as well, and is a real USP for the region and an opportunity for businesses to get behind. In a similar vein, you fed back to us our towns, make them more attractive, make our villages more attractive, get the towns themselves being attractive places to stay. So we're working with local authorities on the Destination Town scheme at the moment, and this seeks to do exactly that. Improve visitor orientation and interpretation within our destination towns, and improve the public realm. Essentially what we're talking about here is creating those spaces to get people to slow down. We all know when we visit places and you come across an area that has a vibe or an atmosphere that'll slow you down and you want to visit the next night and you'll tell someone else to visit. This is what we're trying to develop in our towns themselves. Similarly, COVID has given us an impetus, I suppose, to think differently about how we use public spaces. We've seen local authorities, businesses reimagine public spaces over the last 2 years at a pace we could never have imagined in this country. We want to piggyback on this or capitalize on this momentum from a visitor perspective, because again, this creates that vibe in the towns that we're talking about that we're trying to create. So we're currently investing 4 million in permanent urban dining projects around the region, 20 different projects. And on top of that, 4 urban animation schemes. And these schemes are ways in which people can interact with the streetscape and interact with the space. Again, slow people down, get people to spend more time in our centres. So again, you'll have to bear with me with the rather crude mechanism here, but I just wanted to give you an indication of the depth of product development that is currently in the pipeline across the region. This is not exhaustive. There is plenty of other visitor-facing product development happening from other authorities, other agencies, but this gives you some encouragement, I hope, that there's a huge amount happening that is keeping our region fresh from a visitor perspective. Just sorry, before I move on from that, our product development directorate are hosting a separate session on the 10th of February, so if you want to get into a bit more detail on that, obviously we're here at any stage to talk to you, but you might learn more on that session in 2 days' time. Our fourth strategic objective, and you'll be glad to know this is the second last one, It's ensuring that the region is easy to navigate and consume and access. This is back to your feedback of how do we get people out and amongst the region. We've got a couple of key priorities in here. First, and we're back to greenways here, but ensuring that we're developing greenways in a visitor-focused manner. So working with local authorities to make sure that they are a visitor experience. Cycle paths aren't visitor experiences. Cycle routes aren't visitor experiences. We need to ensure that there's interpretation, orientation, and to be honest, the correct facilities for visitors to be able to consume them. We have an ambitious plan in here, and one which we've already started with our local authority partners, TII and the NTA, to connect Cork to Dublin, the two major cities, via greenways throughout the region. But that is, again, an international game-changing proposition for the region to get people out into the landscape. It's not just cycling infrastructure, though, however. We've got, lowland trails, upland trails. We all have, lovely cliff walks that we have within the region. How do we connect these, and how do we make them visitor-facing? So again, working primarily with our local authority partners to make sure they are visitor-facing and then enabling the industry to be able to capitalize on them. And finally, working with the NTA to improve that public transport link between our towns, between the visitor attractions, and also between those outdoor assets that we talk about, enabling people to consume the region if they don't have their own car. So this is the last objective, but this is the important one where everything else comes together. So what we're saying is we're building a committed stakeholder and industry partnerships to guide sustainable destination development across the region. We all know instinctively that successful destinations are comprised by a broad tapestry of successful components. We know that. We also know that successful destinations are the well-networked destinations. They continuously outperform other destinations. That is a fact across the world. But collaboration is all well and good, but we need to do the development aspect of it in a strategic and a structured manner, and that we're able to bring the industry on that journey. So the mechanism that we're deploying to do this is what we call Destination and Experience Development Plans, or DEDPs, which you're going to hear a lot about. And essentially, this focus of a DEDP is to prioritize all sustainable destination development priorities in one region, in one plan. So across all stakeholders, be it local authorities, Fáilte Ireland, private sector, etc., and bring the industry on that journey. Now, rather than talking theoretically about these, I want to hand over to two of my colleagues now who'll take you through, in a very top-line view, two DEDPs that we've already launched in the region last year in 2021. They're two very different plans. The first is based around an industry which is currently not visitor-facing at all, but is absolutely world-class. And the second is around harnessing and enhancing an existing product base to make it work for the visitor in a better manner and increase that economic return. These really epitomise what my two colleagues are going to talk about, epitomise what the plans can achieve. They do not show the extent of the plans because they could stand up here for 2 or 3 hours each to take you through that. But what I hope that you'll take from what they're presenting is that you can see yourself and your destination in this kind of an aligned plan and how it might work for you as we seek to roll them out across the region over the next couple of years. So Derek?
Thanks a million, Brian. Good to see everyone again after 2 years. Some people I haven't seen in that period of 2 years will notice I've less hair now, and I can't blame Brian for that. That's the trauma of homeschooling for the past 2 years. So it's just brilliant to be up here on stage. As much as it is sweating it out over a presentation, it is great to be back as well. The DEDP that I want to talk to you about is Thoroughbred Country, and it's our most recently launched DEDP. In November last year, we launched a plan, and we're just beginning on our journey of implementation at the moment. And it's aimed at delivering the world's best thoroughbred destination by 2026. So very lofty ambition, but it's a very exciting project. The plan is initially centred around Kildare and Tipperary, and that's because we have a wealth of thoroughbred assets in those counties. And it aims to connect that global reputation that we have with the thoroughbred to cultural tourism. It's not just about racing, it's not equestrian, it's about the thoroughbred, the place, the people, like the saddle makers, the farriers, etc., that unique sense of place and heritage, and connecting that to cultural tourism. Not only will it will develop and connect the tourism industry to the team, it will also connect all the existing projects that are ongoing, and so trail developments, destination towns, etc. as well. And despite the fact we've only just started implementation, we've actually hit a lot of really big milestones already, so we're well down, and that's helped us build a bit of momentum into the project as well. As you'll see behind me, we have a steering group in place, and they've appointed a coordinator with the help of the local authorities, Laura McGee, who acts as a bridge between the thoroughbred industry and the tourism industry, and helping us understand the language of each of those industries and do the translations for us. We also have an agreement in place with the local authorities to help us deliver actions within those plans as well. We have some taster experiences already developed, and in fact, some of them are on market and selling already. We also have developed a quality charter, so the experiences that we develop under this plan are delivered to the absolute highest standards as well. So look, ourselves in Fáilte Ireland and our partners believe we have something truly unique here as well. There's nowhere else in the world that is going to be able to deliver an experience like we're going to do here. So what we're really trying to do over the next 5 years is harness that opportunity. So why Thoroughbred? Why are we doing this? What's the strategic intent behind the plan? And I suppose, look, with all DEDPs, they're about harnessing the tourism potential of an area, and it's about coordinating the activities of stakeholders in the tourism industry. So we're on a shared goal and on a mission together. The panels here are specific to what we're trying to do for Thoroughbred, and the first one there is about providing a tactical plan to harness the Dublin Southwest corridor. There's also that green haze, address that issue that we have, which is the identity beyond Dublin. And it's a particular challenge in this area as well. So what we're really trying to provide is an identity and something for the tourism industry in these areas to coalesce under. We want to tap into the emerging potential for ultralux and the MICE market. And the Thoroughbred industry is well positioned to deliver in that regard. We want to rebalance the distribution of international revenue. So this region gets 23% of international visitors, but only 11% of the revenues. So what that says to us is that it gets a lot of day visits, and I'm sure a lot of people will agree with that from the area. So what we want to do is increase the dwell time and then convert that into overnights. And also we want to connect with that global reputation we have for the Thoroughbred and that industry as well. So not that it's just a regional attractor, but it becomes a global attractor for Ireland as well. And we can use that then to disperse visitors through the region. And then finally, consumability. So that's how visitors navigate and understand the region. And we're going to do that under a framework to develop the destination and clusters housed under a project called the International Thoroughbred Trail. So I'm just going to talk to you very quickly about just how it works for visitors and some of the projects that we're doing. So the first area that we've just kicked off is developing targeted experience. So we need to increase the number of true Thoroughbred experiences within the county. So they're going to be developed behind these two experience areas. Number one is behind the scenes. And that's an area, I suppose, where we're getting in behind some of the top trainers' yards, seeing the operation, see how they run. And as I said, some of the top trainers' yards in the world are in these counties. But there's also the premium money can't buy, and that's targeted at that ultralux and MICE market. So when we say premium, we're not talking about premium in an Irish sense. We are really talking about premium on a global level, because you're getting unrivaled access to a globally recognised sport and industry, and that warrants that premium position. In fact, I suppose we've developed a number of experiences already under these two areas, and some of them the Farrier experience developed in partnership with Tipperary Museum. We've been working with Cashel Palace and Coolmore and Baldoyle. There's also a new behind-the-scenes tour at the Curragh, which is recently launched, and we had our people who attended the launch back in November had the opportunity to take that tour down at the Curragh as well. Separately as well, we have the International Thoroughbred Trail that I mentioned. So when I say a trail, you might conjure up a specific image in mind, but it's not just about signage. You know, there's more to this. It's how people access the region, but it's also how the wider tourism industry, the accommodation providers, the food and drink, it's that cluster and destination connectivity, and that will provide a platform to do that, and so that people can leverage the trail, but also can develop the team within their own businesses as well. In fact, we've just awarded a contract to Haley Sharp Design to develop the concept of the trail. So over the next 6 months, we're going to be really sweating our creative juices to develop what that could be. But although we don't know what the final product is going to be, we certainly know what it will do. It will develop the story, the destination, so that attractions and experiences in towns can see their part in that interconnected story. So and it'll be all done under our strategic pillars, which are the Thoroughbred, the hearse itself, the Thoroughbred people, the place and the heritage, and the winning post. The trail, again, will also help people navigate the region, so how they access all the various attractions and areas of scenic interest from hubs and key access points. And again, I suppose in the background of that as well, we're also working away in the background on the development of a website, and that's being done through the steering group, and that will house the trail, these new experiences. So while we're creating all these new fantastic products, which is what a plan should do, we're also working away in the background on the demand generation side of things. So I've told you about some of the projects that we're working on in terms of the industry side of things, but side by side with that is the tremendous work being done by the stakeholders to steer some of the wide-ranging projects that are within the plan. And I know Brian spoke about collaboration, and it's a buzzword you'll hear a lot, but it is absolutely crucial to us because collaboration is how we activate and deliver the plan. The DDP is not owned by Fáilte Ireland, it's owned by everybody who's involved in it. So we all have roles in delivering the actions and the shared development agenda in that. So that's public and private sector working together to deliver this shared vision. And what I believe has been absolutely critical to us is that we've got the right people in the room earlier on. We've got the key thought leaders and businesses in and developing this. We have a steering group that's made up of private and public, and they have a shared ambition of what they want to do for this region. But they also can see the commercial gains that are going to be gained from this plan as well. At its core, the Thoroughbred DDP will give a clear path for all our industry and all our stakeholders to deliver that Thoroughbred experience for visitors. And I've said we're on it. We think we've got a global opportunity here as well. So I'm looking forward to working on it and sharing more as we develop and work through the programme over the next 5 years as well. So I'm going to hand over to Mark to talk about another plan that's at a different stage. It's called Ancient, but it's not that old, but it is a little bit ahead of Thoroughbred. Thanks a million.
Thanks, Derek. Delighted to be here this afternoon to present our Ancient Destination Experience Development Plan, which in essence is our tourism development roadmap for the counties of Meath and Louth, focusing on the Boyne Valley. So it's a 5,000-year journey here in 8 or 9 minutes, so stay with me. When we started this journey, there were a number of challenges and issues that we wanted to address. So with any plan, we set a number of objectives. Now I'm going to talk to just a couple of these objectives for the purposes of this presentation here today. Firstly, I want to talk to this area here of encourage, stop and stay. We have literally hundreds of thousands of people going to the Boyne Valley, but they don't stop and stay. They pass through. They're going either from Dublin to the west or the southeast or whatever. So that's a big challenge that we need to address and an objective that we have called out here. Secondly, and to that very point, we want to leverage the opportunity that exists with our world-class UNESCO heritage site at Brún na Bóinne. And if we can do those two things, we're on our way to developing a destination in the Boyne Valley. So our approach or a strategic context for doing this is quite simple, really. Here in box 1, we have called out 4 catalyst projects along the bottom, which I'll go into in detail as I go through the presentation here. And in box 2, which underpins the delivery of those particular projects, I'm going to talk to you about the importance of our strategic development pillars and our connections to those particular pillars. I have just talked to the importance here of our catalyst projects along in the destination that we're working to develop, and the importance then of developing our strategic development pillars. And the key to that is unlocking the heritage and revealing the landscape in the destination and telling the story in a meaningful way that will get those visitors to stop in the destination. Back to the objective that I just talked to. So moving on then, this map just really gives you a quick overview as to the opportunity. We have some of the most significant heritage assets in the Boyne Valley, arguably the biggest concentration anywhere in all of Ireland. The challenge for us is to connect those and tell the story relevant to them in a way that keeps people longer and hence deliver on those 2 objectives. So we have, I suppose, started our work on our Ancient DEDP, and there's a number of momentum projects already left the station here, and I'm going to talk briefly about each of these. We're looking at reimagining the Boyne Valley Drive, and I'll come back to that in a little more detail throughout the presentation here, but let me talk to the others as well here. Brian talked to the importance of harnessing the outdoor. We're looking as well at strategic locations like Carlingford and the Cooley Peninsula to develop a destination that will be a playground for Ireland's Ancient East outdoor proposition. We have got the mountains, we have got the Carlingford Loch, we have the coastline, we have got the greenways, and we have an industry that's all fired up to deliver on a new vision for Carlingford. We have a steering committee in place that is working well to deliver the objectives of that plan at this point in time. We heard as well in the presentation about the importance of food. The whole element of food and the provenance of our food in the Boyne Valley goes back 5,000 years as well. So we want to bring that to the fore in terms of how we develop our destination. And we heard the word collaboration today. There are some excellent collaboration initiatives going on in this particular space in the Boyne Valley, with Boyne Valley Flavours and indeed Sea Louth Seafood Trail. We want to build on the success of that. Again, there are other strategic partnership projects going on, very important in terms of developing the destination. We want to develop Drogheda as a gateway to the Boyne Valley. We're looking at developing an attraction to scale there in partnership with the local authority. Looking then on into County Meath, and again the importance of greenways. Brian has emphasised in his presentation here as well. We're working in partnership with the local authority there to develop a new greenway that will link Drogheda right through to Trim, the Boyne Greenway, and the navigation, the potential for a blueway in that space as well. We mentioned the importance at the outset of the presentation about leveraging the opportunity around Brún-na-Boyne as a key site. So we have partnership initiatives with the OPW to do that as well. We want to look at how we can keep people in that particular site longer, but just not in that site. Back to the objective of encouraging people to stop and stay. We want to work with the OPW to ensure visitors to that World Heritage Site stay longer in the area and are orientated around the area, hence delivering on the objective. And again, to the whole theme of collaboration, this area of private sector partnership, and it's very important you, the industry, engage with us. I'm just going to talk briefly to one initiative in terms of how we're helping Slane Estate, for example. We've helped Slane Estate look at its visitor proposition and its vision. They have rolled in behind that now themselves with the development of a master plan and doing some great work in that particular area. So let me jump back quickly to the Reimagine Boyne Valley Drive, because that is central to how we're going to develop this destination. So, okay, sorry, our remote's sticking a little on us here. So if you can imagine what you see on screen here now, the central band that is the drive. Basically, at the moment, the drive is a wonderful drive in itself, linking heritage sites across the Boyne Valley. Our challenge is to take the drive out of the drive, for want of a better term. And we want to slow the visitor down, get them to stay longer. So we want to look at developing the drive in a way that you can walk it, you can cycle it, again playing to the whole outdoors, and how we can do other modes of transport. Brian talked about our linkage with the National Transport Authority as well. Look at the bus connections and look at how we engage with tour operators as well. Then the challenge for the industry is to make sure that they connect across all of these. So in essence, a visitor can come to the Boyne Valley, they can drive a piece, they can cycle, they can walk, they can visit key attractions, and all of that is encouraging them to stay longer. So how are we going to do that with the industry? Quite simply, we're playing to this concept of developing clusters. Now, a cluster can be a group of businesses, like-minded people. It can be an existing network. It can be themed around food, like I spoke about, or it can be looking at a specific initiative, for example, the like of evening economy initiatives. So the challenge for you, the industry, is to make the decision to engage in the network and to engage in those clusters. These cluster networks will be developing across the entire programme area, and the industry, the ask of the industry is to engage. Make that decision to start and engage with us. In doing that, then you can lean to all the wonderful supports that Amanda spoke of in terms of developing your own capability and capacity to deliver. And in doing that, you're developing within a cluster not only your own capability to develop, but that of the cluster as well. And that rising tide will lift everyone in the destination, and hence the cluster starts to grow. So what will that look like in the Boyne Valley in terms of what we're doing? We want to play to this 5,000-year story. And we're back to the strategic pillars that touch this clusters, the clusters that we're looking at in the Boyne Valley. We want to talk to the heritage, to the river and the landscape. Then we dive down into dealing with you, the industry, who create the experiences through our activities and our attractions and different ways of accessing the destination. Now, the cluster will take the partnership to a new level. We want to dive down into the community. We want to talk to local experts. We want to talk to other shop owners and cafes to engage in delivering a proposition. And then through our strategic partnerships, which I talked to, we will come behind to develop an infrastructure that will keep people in the area. Back to the original objective. And that will include orientation, that will include arrival points, car parking, and so on and so forth. So, moving quickly on, what that looks like in the Boyne Valley is quite simply. You can see here the drive called out on the red, and you can see the importance of our blueways in the Boyne River and the River Blackwater as well. I've called out the different towns here on this map. Those are the touch points where visitors will meet the destination. So, in essence, our clusters then will come together, I suppose, right around the destination, and in doing so, we will group them into networks at certain points in the destination here. And at each point within the cluster, there will be a go-to attraction. So, for example, in this particular cluster here, Brúnaboyne, the emerging attraction of scale in Drogheda, and so on and so forth. So, engaging the industry in a way that ties them into the destination is essential in our destination plan. And just to conclude, I want to give you a sense of what the support infrastructure will look like in the developing destination here as well. Again, you may not see this in great detail, but this is Slane Village. If you take a look, here's the village, and the idea of connection and connecting everyone up is central to this concept. We have an emerging greenway here, and we hope to hear the preferred route of that in the months ahead. You have Slane Estate and the potential to roll out a master plan that will look at a trail hub linked to the Greenway. You have a connection to the Hill of Slane, wonderful story that's related to our patron saint St. Patrick, and the connections of trails and walks that connect the village in different ways, all getting back to that original objective of encouraging people to stop and stay. So that's a whirlwind visit of our ancient DEDP, so thanks for your time, and back to Brian. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. So hopefully what you saw from Mark and Derek is not necessarily focusing on the specifics itself, but that this approach in your own destination and what can be achieved by collaborating together to join all of these development projects up together, because quite often they all coexist or exist separately. Getting them to coexist and getting the industry behind it is where we really drive success. We will be launching these throughout the entire region over the duration of the strategy, and again, we have some currently in stakeholder engagement process here for this year, and next year pushing into the remaining. So very briefly before, because I'm conscious I'm keeping you from your lunch, Niall addressed this morning in the plenary session, but again, just to reiterate, this year we will have double the impact with our Keep Discovering campaign. Reached 97% of Irish adults last year. This year, Niall, we're going to reach 100, are we? So again, this is there for your benefit. This is there for you to piggyback on the success of, and we will be across all channels. Your feedback to us over the last few weeks was get out, go early. You'll have seen the weather sponsorship go live, TV and other channels going live this weekend across the region. Again, this will be underpinned by our sales promotion campaigns, just to not labour on the point, but in Ireland's Ancient East last year, the success was seen through Win-Win and Expedia in particular, driving over 75% of the revenue into your businesses. Again, we'll retain that agility that we had last year. You choose if you want to use the platforms, they're there to work for you. And finally, I'm going to play out with our Ireland's Ancient East TV ad, but just to say before I play this, a huge thank you to you all for all of the collaboration. I know it's a buzzword, and I know some people, it can be a bit cheesy at times, but there was an awful lot of collaboration that happened over the past 2 years. This really helped us work with you and vice versa to get as many people through your doors in difficult circumstances. Taking that momentum into our strategy going forward, we are firmly ambitious that we can deliver a world-class tourism region in Ireland's Ancient East, and we look forward to partnering with you all in doing so. Thank you very much.
You might think you know Ireland's Ancient East, but maybe it's time for a closer look. An extraordinary glimpse of the oldest of stories. Where battles are won, legends are born, and the adventurous spirit always rewarded.
I can't believe there's Vikings in Wexford. I know, it's mad, isn't it?
Keep discovering Ireland's Ancient East.